Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My name is Dr. Farjana. Alhamdulillah, it's a pleasure to be here and an honor. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant me the ability to relay the right message to help all our families, inshallah, and the ummah as a whole. I am an author, I'm an educator for more than 15 years. I also have my PhD in clinical psychology. I work as a life coach and do a lot of therapy work with the Muslim population, alhamdulillah. So up front, before I begin, I have my card over here. I also have 2 worksheets that I created for children, so how to process emotions, and then another worksheet for adolescents, how parents can help them transition from being a child to an adolescent. So inshallah, take those on your way out. So it's early morning, inshallah, right? We're all here, it's the last day, and we made it, right? We're all here because, why? We love our families, we love our children, and we want to be the best parents, right? So I want to engage you all in the audience, so make sure you ask questions and you feel comfortable, okay? So remember, we're on the same side, we're on the same page. We want to help our children become better. All right, so number 1, today I'm going to talk about how to have powerful parent-child communication. Firstly, I want us to understand one thing. We are living in one of the most difficult times. Children today deal with more issues than ever before. Basically, our children's core values are questioned daily. They deal with media. They're flooded with media that promotes vulgarity and negativity in all forms. They deal with extremely busy parents, right? Parents who have many responsibilities. Here the mom is busy with work, demands, chores, in-laws. The father is working all the time. Parents who are not fully present. Also, they deal with our religion being criticized daily through social media. They deal with influences of drugs and alcohol, and it's a reality. They deal with contradictory societal standards of beauty, of clothing, mannerism, that clash with the values that are taught at home, sadly, but it's the truth. So according to this hadith, the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ stated, "Verily, ahead of you are days of patience, in which patience will be like grasping hot coal. The one who does good deeds in that time will have the reward of 50 men who can do likewise." Basically, there are more rewards for raising a family now than previous times. Why? Because of the immense difficulties our families face on a daily basis. Our faith and core values are questioned daily. So, why is parent-child communication important in all of this? Why? Research indicates that strong family relationships can help children develop self-esteem, resist peer pressure, and act responsibly when making decisions about societal struggles, such as drugs and alcohol. Effective parent-child communication, particularly, is the cornerstone of strong families. How and what families communicate make all the difference in our child's lifelong well-being. It's crucial. Basically, parent-child communication is key to preventing and solving societal struggles our children face. So this is where we all have to begin, parents. We have to open those lines of communication, inshallah. So where do we start? It starts with us, our parents. I have a 2-year-old and a 14-year-old. I'm also a wife, I'm a mother, I'm a teacher, right? I'm a therapist. But it starts with us, right? We have to start taking action. As parents, we must be present. There are three major obstacles that impede parent-child communication. And it's very important that we understand what they are. Number one, marital strife. Number two, negative cultural influences. And number three, lack of involvement in our children's lives. So, for marital strife, here, parents are always arguing due to finances or whatever the reasons may be. Parents are unavailable, communication is lost. Negative cultural influences. Here, parents have mixed up priorities due to cultural norms. Everyone and everything else is prioritized, but the children. Children are left in the background. Healthy communication is lost. Or it can be the other opposite, where the children are prioritized so much that there's a lot of enabling behavior that starts to begin, right? And there's lack of enforcement of rules, and because the children kind of take over, unfortunately. And that also happens in a lot of our families. Lack of involvement in our children's lives. Here, parents are too busy, not present, they have their own emotional issues. Children do not get the attention they need developmentally. Again, communication is lost. So we must address these three obstacles for any communication to even begin to open up. So as I mentioned, our children's faith and core existence is being challenged daily. As parents, we cannot afford to be complacent. We can't. How you deal with these three obstacles will shape your entire family system. It is the foundation of strong family relations. Address them properly for any lines of communication to begin. So, fix your marriages. Get rid of negative cultural influences and be involved in your children's lives. Okay, so this is where I'm going to engage you a little bit. So why is it important to open those lines of communication with our kids? Why? Anyone? Yes?
I mean, if we don't have the lines together, then later on we're not going to know who they are, and when they need help, they're not going to come to us, they're going to go someplace else, which might not be the way.
Sure. I agree with you. Alhamdulillah. Thank you. So basically, they're not going to be connected to us, correct? Anyone else? Yes.
So they'll come to us and not go to their friends and peers.
Exactly, right? Yes. So they'll come to us for guidance, right? Okay, good, great. And what are the three major obstacles that impede parent-child communication? What are they? I just said them. Anyone else?
Spouse relationship, negative cultural impact,
Get involved in Jesus.
Yes, perfect. Okay, excellent. Okay, good. Remember, culture is a beautiful thing, but I'm talking about the negative influences, right? Where shame takes over, and we don't get the help that we need because we're worried about what people are going to say. We need to get rid of that thinking, right? Moving on. So once the foundation is built, what are specific steps we can take to open those lines of communication, inshallah? Now I'm going to provide concrete steps. So this is where you guys take out your pens, your notepads, your phones, in the note section, inshallah, because this is crucial and this will help a lot of your families, inshallah. So these are the concrete steps. Number one, understand your child developmentally. Build a relationship. Connect with their world. Show love and affection. Active listening. Be a role model. Discipline with love and firmness. Talk about real life issues. And teach better ways to express themselves. I'm going to go over them in detail, inshallah. But also remember, I'm going to post this on the PowerPoint on my site, The Balanced Muslim, that me and my husband and I created to help the Ummah. So that, and don't worry, if you miss anything, it will be up there.
Can you please tell
the balanced Muslim. I have the card over here, inshallah. Okay, so don't worry. Okay, so what are those concrete steps, right? And please stop me if I'm going too fast, okay? If you have any questions, just feel comfortable, okay? I want this to be an environment where we can learn from each other, inshallah. First, we need to understand where children are developmentally. What do they crave? First, developmentally, children want two things: acceptance and attention. Acceptance and attention. We need to create an atmosphere of acceptance and unconditional love where mistakes are allowed in our houses. Where attention is given, efforts are praised. This is how children develop self-worth. This is where their feelings get validated, and they don't go outside looking for that validation, right? Because they're getting it at home. Their self-worth is being built naturally, alhamdulillah. So they don't need to dress a certain way, and they don't need to act a certain way to fit in, right? If we keep this as the guiding force, children's basic developmental needs will be met. Their hearts will start to open, trust will be built, inshallah, and communication will start to flow. Trust me. So let's go on to the second concrete step. Build a relationship with them. This is where you give them the attention that they crave. Spend time with them. Have plan time with each child. So if you have a 2-year-old, 2-year-old time. 14-year-old, have 14-year-old time, right? So play the monster trucks with your 2-year-old and do each other's hair with the 14-year-old. Notice them, compliment them, praise their efforts. So if they come in with a B+, it's okay. Say, you know what, did you try your best? Yes? Okay, alhamdulillah, let's see how we can get an A next time, right? So praise those efforts. It's okay. It's okay. Talk to them. And use terms of endearment, especially with adolescents. If you have an adolescent and you're busy, let's say both parents are working, send them a text in the morning. Honey, how are you doing? Mommy loves you, alhamdulillah. Have a great day, right? This makes them feel important. And again, the lines of communication start opening, right? The next concrete step. Connect with their world. Play with them as they like to play. As I mentioned, right? So the 2-year-old with the monster trucks, the 14-year-old with the hair, or, you know, whatever they like. Know the shows they like to watch. Watch it with them. This will help you monitor the shows as well, right? You can pick shows together. Keep up with the trends. As parents, we have to keep up with the trends. I don't care how busy you are, you need to keep up with the trends. You don't want to lack knowledge about current world dynamics. This will help you stay connected with your children, right? Show love and affection. It doesn't matter how old your child is, show them love and affection. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ used to play with his children. He would get on his knees and crawl around with them, right? Do you guys do that? Can you raise your hand if you do that? Do you crawl around with your kids and play around with them? Yeah? Okay, alhamdulillah. You know, be silly with your children. Be fun with them, right? Have fun with them. Smile, giggle, cuddle with them, right? Those are memories that you're creating that's going to last a lifetime. Active listening. This is what this sister here, beautiful sister here, alhamdulillah, was speaking about. Active listening. Turn your phone off. Seriously, turn your phone off. When you come home from work, or your husband comes home, or whatever the dynamic is in your family, 5 to 7, phones off. That's it. Turn your phone off. Like, disengage from the world and be present for your children. They need you. right? Just turn it off. Instagram, Facebook, turn it off. It shuts the mind chatter and you're present for your children. Stop what you're doing and give them undivided attention. So when they come and talk about your day, you know you're cooking and you're cutting the onions, stop, right? And like this, again, the beautiful sister here mentioned, turn yourself around, your whole body, and talk to your child. Okay, honey, what happened? How was your day? Oh, okay, all right. You know what, mommy will finish the conversation after I finish putting this in, cooking this meal, but I will follow up with you. And you do follow up. Do not interrupt them when they talk. Don't give them solutions right away. Remember, again, this is all part of active listening, right? Our tendency for us, because we're parents and because we are we're their protectors, we just want to go and solve their problems. So as soon as they come and say, you know, this girl did this to me at school, oh, you know what you should do? No, don't do that yet. Just wait, listen to them, validate their feelings, and then come up, strategize with them. Strategize with them. Here you're teaching them life skills, right? So if you're teaching them to come up with, okay, so what do you think you should have done? Oh, okay, you know what? I think I would have done that too. I would also do this. So teach them these skills because no one is teaching it to them, right? Okay. So I'm going to stop here for a second. Okay, let's process what just happened, what we just learned, alhamdulillah. So far, what are some ways you can keep the communication open? Anybody? What are some things that I just mentioned?
Show love and affection.
Love and affection.
Active listening.
Anyone else who wants to add to this, sister? Yeah. Put your phones away. Yes. Look at this beautiful child engaging, right? Put your phones away. Yeah. Anybody else? Anybody else? Yes.
Watch the show with them, whatever they are watching.
Exactly. Another little beautiful girl over there. Yeah, active listening, right? Yeah, you want your mommy to listen to you, right? Undivided attention, right? Full attention on you? Yes. Okay, mashallah, thank you. Okay, so let's move on, okay? Be a good role model, okay? Parents, be a good role model. Live Islam. What you say and what you do have to match. So what you're saying as a parent and what you do, your actions have to match. Your children can see right through the hypocrisy. So practice what you preach. You are going to make mistakes, and that's normal because we're human, right? We are all going to make mistakes. But this is where you stop and talk to them about it, like, oh, I'm so sorry mommy reacted this way, or daddy reacted this way. I had a very rough day. Because here you're also teaching them that, you know what, we're human. You're human. But the main goal is to practice what you teach. What you say and do have to match. So if you're saying, let's pray 5 times a day, but then you're on the phone gossiping with another, one of your friends, that's hypocrisy. There's a disconnect there, right? There's a disconnect. So try to be good role models. Show healthy ways to process and express emotions. No one is teaching this to them, right? At schools, they're not learning this. No one is teaching them how to process emotions. No one is. Live self-care. Your mental and your physical health have to come first. As parents, right? We work a lot, right? The fathers are always working working and providing for their family. The mothers, the house chores, right? The dishes, and the fathers as well, I'm sure. And it just gets very chaotic sometimes. So the healthier you are, the healthier your family is. So take care of yourself, right? Please, take care of yourself. The more you take care of yourself and process emotions, your children start to emulate this, right? So they start picking up on this healthy behavior. Again, you're teaching them life skills. Further, you become better at identifying and solving unhealthy dynamics. So the healthier you are,
That's my 2-year-old, by the way. Okay, so what I was trying to say is that the more you become better, the healthier you become, you are able to identify unhealthy dynamics, right? Because you're at a better place, right, mentally. So when you see unhealthy dynamics forming within your family, you can say, wait a second, no, I'm gonna start taking control again. And you stop, right? And you say, okay, wait, I'm the parent, you're the child, let's stop here. And like you start, taking control again. Healthy dialogue begins to occur, and your family begins to thrive, right? Inshallah. Okay, this is very important. This will help not just children, but adolescents. And I know a lot of you have adolescents, young adults, right? Children who are in college right now. So this is very important. Discipline with love and firmness. Discipline with love and firmness. Islam is about balance, right? It's about balance. We can't be too firm and we can't be too permissive, where we allow everything to happen. That doesn't work. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was never harsh with children. He was never harsh with them. According to research, authoritative parenting style is key. This disciplining style includes kindness, firmness, and explanations. Again, kindness, firmness, and explanations. Basically, you want to correct behavior in a firm, loving manner with explanations. Follow up and be consistent with those required behaviors, right? So let's say one day you say it and then a week later your child does it again and you don't follow up. That's not gonna work, right? I've been teaching for many years. If you're not consistent, those kids will take over you. If you have 30 kids in a classroom, they will take over, right? So you have to be consistent because it's showing your character, right? This is another very important key aspect. Tell children it is your duty as a Muslim parent to correct their behavior, to teach them, and then train them to be strong Muslims in the world. Here they will understand healthy discipline is for a greater purpose. It's not just to nag them, right? Like, do this, do this, do this. They understand that, you know what? Mommy's job, daddy's job is to make sure you're a good Muslim. That you can go out in the world and become a mover and shaker of the world, right? Not a passive person who just takes in anything and everything. So they understand that there's a bigger purpose here. Okay. Now, these are two big discipline issues we face when we dealing with our children nowadays, this day and age. Disrespect and selfishness. Please raise your hand if any of you went through this with your children. Disrespect and selfishness. I mean, it has to be it has to be more than that, I'm sure. It has to be. It has to be. If you have teenagers or a 7-year-old and upwards, I'm sure it's prevalent. So, why does this happen? Discipline and disrespect. Oh my goodness, right? Like where is this coming from? I'll tell you where it's coming from. Society has normalized disrespectful behavior and selfish behavior through shows, etc. It's so common in every show you watch. Disney, we don't have a TV in our home, right? We scan them. My 2-year-old doesn't even know what a TV is, right? But when we do scan it on Netflix, right? It's everywhere. The kids, that's how they talk to their parents, and then you have this in the background, the kids, the audience laughing like it's a joke, right? So notice when your children are making comments like, "Why not? It's not fair. I don't care." When they do that, you need to stop them there. Or put you down. Another thing they do, they put you down. In their comments, when they're responding to you, very, very quietly, they'll put you down somehow. They will. And you're like, wait a second. Did they just... And you get confused, right? So, another thing. Notice when they make faces. This is so common as well. If you have 11 and up, They make faces at you, and they don't even notice that they're making these faces. It's become such a habit. It has. That most of the time they don't even notice that they're doing it. And so when you tell them, why are you making a face at me? I'm not making a face at you. Yes, you are. Right? Yes, you are. So correct this. Correct it. Do not let it go. Follow up on it. Right? Teach them how to disagree and express themselves respectfully. Yeah, they have a right to their feelings, of course, but teach them how to express it in a respectful manner, right? Not overly reactive or overly passive. You want them to know how to have a balance. Again, Islam is about balance. Selfishness. Here, teach them to think about the person who comes next, right? So this will help reduce selfish behavior. So teach this to them. Oh, holding doors. This is another thing that a lot of teenagers do. They'll just like let the door go. So teach them this mentality of thinking about the person after them, or wiping the seats in a restroom, right? Who's gonna go after you? So teach that to them. And again, I got that from my husband. I have to give him credit for that. He's right here in the front. Alhamdulillah. So yeah, so that's how that you can do. Again, what are the two things? Disrespect and selfish behavior. Correct those. All right. Talk about real life issues. Talk about big events that occur at home and in the world. Don't sweep it under the rug, right? Don't pretend like it didn't happen. Talk about issues that are happening, like a school shooting that might have happened, unfortunately. I mean, whatever the situation, talk about it. Or something in the house happened, right? Where like something happened to an aunt or somebody, talk about those. Don't feel like your kids are just too young or, it doesn't matter. It does matter. Because they're going through it as well. Talk about struggles as a Muslim growing up in a non-Muslim environment. You have to talk about that. Who's gonna talk about that with them? Their friends? No, you guys have to talk about it. High school dilemmas like dressing, certain school events, shows, right, that contradict Islamic values. Teach them and tell them why, or come up with solutions together. Talk about why it doesn't coincide with Islamic etiquette, right? So they want to go to the prom, right? They're in high school. Everybody's going to the prom. How are you going to deal with that? Right? Or, a lot of things come up, right? It depends, where you draw the line. A pep rally at school. Not everyone goes to a Muslim high school or a Muslim school, Islamic school. So who's making those connections and who's deciphering between what's correct Islamic etiquette and what's not? And why? Right? You can't just say, oh, and no, we can't do that. Why? Why, Mom? Remember? Find alternatives together. Like, for instance, a lot of girls deal with this. I dealt with it. I was born and raised here, and I dealt with the same issues. Like, instead of, like, with clothing, find alternatives, like fashionable, modest clothes, right? For your teenagers, for your young adults. Halal fun activities, right? So their friends are going to the mall and hanging out. What is your child doing in the weekend? Huh? Right? How to choose appropriate shows. Right? Choose it together. Oh, why is this show not appropriate, Mom? Oh, okay. Let's look for some good shows that are clean. Right? Finally, don't leave your teenagers out in the cold. For some reason, we feel like teenagers are able to transition from adolescence to adulthood without any concrete guidance. Just like we teach our little ones how to walk, right? And we teach them how to ride a bike. We have to teach our teenagers step-by-step guidance. We have to teach them use a step-by-step guidance as well. Don't forget that. Okay, so for some reason they become teenagers, we're like, all right, go to high school, you're good, you go to college, you're fine. No, they're dealing with so many things. They're dealing with body image, they're dealing with, puberty. We can't just forget about that. We have to still guide them, step by step. Okay,
coming to an end, okay? Teach children better ways to express themselves. This is crucial. We live in a generation of children who do not know how to express themselves. They don't. They're either, like I said, inexpressive, right? They're just quiet. Or they're overly emotionally reactive. So we have like these two extremes. Unfortunately, children are only taught academic intelligence by adults. Really, that's what we really focus on, right? Prayers and do good in school. You get A's. That's it. And then we think they're set, right? As long as they become a doctor or a lawyer, and then they're praying, they're okay, right? Right? But no. What about emotional intelligence, right? Who is teaching that to them? How to process their emotions? Are you teaching that to them? Schools aren't teaching that to them. I've been teaching for 15 plus years. We don't have that in our curriculum. No one's teaching them how to process their emotions. Inshallah, I'm working on a mental health curriculum for the schools. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, approve it. It gets approved and it gets promoted, inshallah, but no one's teaching it to them. And it's not in the curriculums, and think about it. Look at the extreme rates of school shootings, right? Why is that happening? No one is teaching kids how to process their emotions. It's so sad. As parents, we must teach them emotional intelligence. We must. This is called the art of self-regulation. This will prepare them for all areas of their life, right? In their own marriages, in their own dealings with work environments, right? Basically, teach them how to be in tune with their feelings. So this is just a quick example. But again, inshallah, if you want details, you can always contact me. Again, look at the articles on the website. So here, how do you teach them how to be in tune with their feelings? Okay, parents, this is important. First, have them label their feelings, right? Acknowledge their feelings. Then validate their feelings, right? Tell them that it's very normal to feel. Teach them strategies to process their emotions. So if they're angry, what are some things you can do when you're angry? Okay. Oh, you're anxious? What are some things you can do when you're anxious? So one quick technique that I tell a lot of my clients is when they feel angry, I say, I feel angry right now because blah, blah, blah happened, whatever it is, and it's okay, I accept you. I'll say that again. I feel angry right now because this happened, whatever it is, you label what that thing, what situation that it happened, and it's okay, I accept you. Basically, you're teaching them that it's okay to be angry, that's a normal feeling, and you let it pass through you, right? And you acknowledge it. The more you watch your feelings, the more you know how you're feeling, it doesn't have control over you, right? It doesn't have control over you. So this is just a simple technique. There's many more, inshallah, that we can follow up on. So to recap, okay? So just to recap, fix your marriages, right? Get rid of negative cultural influences. Be involved in your children's lives, right? Those are building the foundation. Open lines of communication. Understand your children developmentally. Build a relationship. Connect with their world. Show love and affection. Active listening. Be a role model. Remember that? But it's okay to make mistakes. We're all human. You're going to have relapses, and that's okay. Discipline with love and firmness. Talk about real-life issues. Teach better ways to express themselves. So very quickly, I'm going to do a really quick activity. Inshallah, I don't know if I have enough time. But now that you're all experts in having great communication with your children, we're going to I'm going to read two scenarios, and you're going to decipher between which scenario is positive communication and which one has negative communication. You can talk to your family members or your friends
whoever you want. Okay? Are you guys ready to do this? Yes? Okay. All right. So, is this positive or negative communication? The child says, Dad, that boy just took my monster truck. The parent says, it's your problem. Deal with it.
Negative.
You can put point like this, thumbs down. Negative? Yes, I agree with you. Okay, next. Child says, I have such a difficult schedule this year. The parent says, don't mess up. You better get all A's.
Negative.
Oh my goodness, you guys are such experts in this. Alhamdulillah. Okay, one more. Child says, Mom, I had the worst day ever. The parent says, do you want to tell me about it? I'll listen. I'll make time for you. Positive. Can we do one more? Okay. Yes. Child says, Mom, I hate you so much. The parent says, I love you very much, but that comment hurts Mommy very much. Yeah, right? Positive. Positive. Excellent. Okay, parents, so to conclude, children need you more than ever. We live in the most difficult times. It's a fact. Their faith and core values are being questioned every single day. We must open those lines of communication with the specific steps discussed. You need to be present and prioritize them. Remember, dysfunctional children, dysfunctional ummah. Your children are like cameras. As parents, you are leaving lasting images in your child's life. Those images will echo in everything they do. Thank you, parents. Alhamdulillah. Assalamu alaikum. We have some more time if you want any question and Q&As with Sister Tasneem, Madiha, sorry, and if you want to stay and ask any questions, we're available.
Yeah, just wanted to say the session isn't over. So I know everyone's trying to run to the next one. It hasn't started yet. So we have 15 minutes if you guys have questions or want to follow up. I have a question in the front.
There's a card, sister. From the seat.
Yeah, you can ask from the seat or, yeah, because we have 15 minutes. The session isn't done. I think she said to conclude it, including her presentation.
Yes, I apologize.
No. So,
I kept saying that negative cultural influences.
can you give
Explain that.
Do you want to explain it for this whole show?
Sure. Can you give examples of the negative cultural influences?
Start? Okay. Okay. Assalamu alaikum, brother. So when I mean negative cultural influences, I'm talking about sometimes the negative aspects of culture contradict Islamic values, right? So here you have families don't get help because we're trying to appease the gossipers, right? We don't get the help because of the shame, right, or the guilt that's connected to whatever the family is going through, right? Do you want to add on to that? Honey, do you want to say something? Can you add on? Yeah. My husband and I, we do the Repairing the Muslim Family. That's our website. Inshallah, maybe you can add on to this, honey. Come on, it's okay. Please. Come on. It's very important because we do a lot of this work together, and it's important. I just wanted to add on here.
So, thank you for letting me come up here. I wasn't expecting to. I actually get a lot of clarity because I live outside the culture. I married into Desi culture, and it was very eye-opening for me as a Muslim convert. And all I knew was Islam. I didn't know the culture. So I had a very clear understanding of it, and I obviously went through family issues. So some of the influences that my wife and I talk about a lot is the shame and guilt culture, where families don't seek marital help, they don't seek therapy for their children, they kind of sweep drug issues under the rug and just kind of let them get too far. And they do it at the expense of the health of their family, and they do it at the expense of their children, really, because they're worried about what will everyone say. I mean, I married into the culture, and you know how many times I've heard, what will people say? What will the community say? And this it's not just Desi, it's like I've noticed in the whole Muslim community from all cultures, this has kind of grown. So I think that's really what we're talking about, is be honest about the problem, and at the end of the day, the family is our responsibility, and we'll be questioned about that. So if we're worried about what the society and the backbiters and the gossipers are saying, we're appeasing them over Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the pleasure that we can earn from Him. And I think that's the main.
Also, I have a question. How you approach children these days? Very common that they start seeing a different religion person, start dating or liking a different religion person. How you approach those kids? Would you like to answer?
Thank you, brother. Inshallah, you should be a speaker next year too.
Your question was how you deal with your teenager if they like someone who's from a different culture.
Culture
or religion. Do you mean like as in romantically like?
Right.
Okay. That's very tough for sure. I think. So again, I'm not a therapist. I'm saying this just from my experience working with youth, and then I'll let the other sister come up, inshallah. I think that you have to get to the bottom of what it is that's making them like this other person, right? But before you even do that, I think that you have to figure out where are you and what you've taught them about what's okay or what's not okay in terms of romantic involvement, and how Islam feels about that, right? You have to figure out, if you've already talked to them about it, then you need to have that conversation again. And you need to put the ball in their court and talk through the different scenarios with them, right? So you need to let them come up with, why is it a problem? What's wrong with it? What are the issues going on, right? So tell them, well, what do you think? What do you think we should do if we like someone and if we have those romantic feelings? Have that conversation with them. In general, regardless of if they like someone that's the same religion or not the same religion. For us, that's not different, right? Because before you get married, there isn't any sort of official dating, right? There's courtship with a chaperone, but there's no dating. So it doesn't matter who you like, talk to them about that piece first. Then you start bringing in, talking to them about, well, now let's talk about what happens if it's someone from a different religion. What's that going to look like? Let's think it through, right? You can't force anything, though, at the end of the day. Because if you do, the more you push them away, the more they're going to run away from you. I don't know if you want to add. Other questions?
In your whole speech, I thought that this process is the two-way process. Children also doing with us. So I wrote down two questions that you told that turn your phone off from 5 to 7 and involve your children life. But sometimes we turn off the phone, but they don't want to turn off the phone, and they don't want to talk, and they don't want to involve us in their lives, especially teenagers.
They go to the room and close the door.
Yeah, in the room, on the laptop, and what you want, Mama? Okay, I'm working, and then we have no time to talk to them. That's a great obstacle for us.
Do you have media contract with them? Right? They don't have to be the ones that decide that they're allowed to go in their room and shut you out. You as a parent have to, right, set a contract with them. Say, these are the rules that we're all going to follow. I'm not just going to turn my phone off 5 to 7. Everybody in this house has to turn their phone off. Set a rule for where laptops are allowed. I don't know about anybody, but I would never, ever allow a teenager past a certain time to have a laptop in their room. I'm sorry, what home? Let them do it in their living room, right? At that age, because of the dangers that are out there, you trust your child. It's not that. It's what other people can see and do, and who they can access, right? So you set the rules, right? Set the rules that I can turn my phone off, you're also turning your phone off.
I just want to add, remember, you are the parent, right? You are in control, and sometimes we forget that because, again, our children have a way of, they're they know us, and they know how to work us as well, right? So I have a family easel in the kitchen. This is a very good idea. If you want to, when all your families get a family easel with a dry erase marker and put it up in the kitchen. This is where you can communicate dates, grocery needs, everyone can write everything on there, right? And you can write a little note over there. I am the parent and I am in charge, right? You have to remember that. Have family media free time. So it's not just your phone that's off, your children as well. And have a time limit. You need to make sure your homework is done by 10 p.m. or whatever time you want to set. And that's it. Laptops are off. And again, like the sister suggested, have them work in the living room if you can. But by a certain time, the laptops are off. And I'm not saying I'm perfect at this as well. We're all learning together, right? But media free time, family media free time. Number 2, a family easel in the kitchen. So that's your common area of communication. Like, mommy, I have this appointment, the parent-teacher conference. Your husband has a meeting. You have a meeting. So all dates are on together. Grocery list, grocery needs, and on top, I am the parent and I am in control. I am in charge.
Question: how do you deal with? I have 4 children: college, high school, middle school, elementary. How do you deal with manipulation? I'm struggling heavily with manipulation.
Can you elaborate?
Example,
Yeah, example.
Do you want to repeat it? Because I don't know if everybody heard.
How do you deal with children manipulating the parents?
Right. It's more so with my youngest. She's my youngest. So it's more so with her with the manipulation.
Like what?
She'll kind of make you feel bad with her own spin as to why this really should be this way after you've said no already. But she'll put a spin on it, right? She'll persuade me in her own way, and I'll be like, well, you know, that doesn't kind of right, like, you know, something like that.
Okay.
You understand?
Oh, I see what you're saying. So identify. Okay. So again, remember we always talk about labeling what's happening. So label what's happening to yourself. Is my child manipulating me? What does manipulation look like? Right? So maybe even getting a book on manipulate, how people manipulate each other, right? So first look at the situation, say label it. Is my daughter or my son or my child manipulating me? What is manipulation? Right? As soon as they say that, say it. You're using guilt right now, you know, and just so again, 3 steps. Label what's happening. Label it. Say, is my daughter manipulating me or my child? Identify what manipulation looks like, because sometimes we don't know that. Because if you have a good heart and you're a nice person, it's very easy for you to just give, right? Give, and that's your nature. So knowing what manipulation looks like, and then directly saying it. Stop manipulating me. I said no, and that's it. Why? Because blah, blah, blah. Remember, love, firmness, and explanations. Inshallah.
Can I just add that a lot of times kids are brilliant, right? And they use what works when they figure it out that it works. So once you cut it off, like she's saying, redirect and just say it, that it's not going to happen, she'll eventually pick up, okay, I tried this, it's not working with mom. So then she'll stop. It'll just don't reinforce the behavior, and it'll stop. She'll try something else. And then you'll just keep going. But just cut it off. I think there's a question.
Sister, did you say you have no TV in your house?
Yeah, I don't.
How do you update your kids with the latest information? Like the news media, like yesterday I was attending a seminar. There were two brothers from the media, they were professors, and there were 2 other speakers. They were saying that Muslims should be more in media. They should know more information. They should know what's going on in the current world. How do you update your kids with that? Because you're depriving them of that.
Well, we have the phones, right? iPhones, we have that. It's just that we don't want a television that becomes the cornerstone, right, in the living room, and that's the point of contact for everything. Dialogue stops happening, right? Everyone's eating and watching television. So we're not depriving them because everyone has iPhones, everyone has laptops, right? So television is more because of the commercials that exist in the shows, right? The subliminal messages that you want to be aware of. The shows, the Disney shows that, again, promote a lot of things that contradict our values, right? So there's other ways to still be updated, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't think when she says TV, she's not saying you're not connected to the world. It's just that you're controlling what you're connected to. And you get connected to everything through social media now. It's not, I don't think it's depriving them at all.
I actually had a question for the brother. It's more of a cultural issue, so if you don't mind, can I ask your husband?
Sure.
If he feels comfortable, sure.
So I ended up being part of it.
Well, I should tell you something. It's a need that people have.
And you grew up in a totally different way. That's why. So our kids are into both the worlds. They're in a clash. So what I'm facing is I have 3 children. 2 are older. One is on college. One will be going to college. The issue of the prom. So prom was never a problem in our house. They said, you know, Mom, we never go to the prom. So 2 kids went without prom. Third kid, teenager, 13 years old. He's bringing the issue home. He said, you know, so what if they didn't go? Can I still go? We sat down, we talked about it. He's very determined to go. So should I put my foot down that your brothers didn't go, they didn't even bring the issue home, you shouldn't go? Or should I explain what situation he might face and then let him go?
How do you deal with that?
I think you already have your answer.
Yeah, I mean,
I just wanted to say the psychological piece of it, then you can talk about the cultural. One, don't compare your kids, right? Your younger son grew up differently, has a different personality, and he will resent that if you compare him to older kids, right? My mom is a very different mom to my oldest sibling than to my youngest brother, right? She never used to say I love you when I was growing up, but my youngest brother, you know, she's like, I love you, oh, you know, very different. So kids are different, and you have to be that way with them. I think that you have the answer in your second option that you gave, which is, let's talk it through, and then here's what do you think. And if he goes, is it the end of the world, right? You have to think about who your child is. Do you trust him? Do you trust how you raised him? And if he goes and he makes a minor mistake, it's okay. Is it the end of the world? If he goes and he realizes, oh man, this is not my kind of place, isn't that a better lesson for him than what we just talked to them about, right? So, cultural parts, sorry.
Well, I think converts sometimes are more strict. I would explain to him and not let him go. That would be what I would do, just explain why I wasn't letting him go and why the brothers didn't go. You know, I think sometimes, probably because I came from that world where everything was allowed, and I see the line clearly, and I would never cross back over that line because I know what's on the other side. So with my kids, sometimes I forget that they're still exploring, but for me, I've already seen it, and I don't want them to go there. But I try to do it in the most loving way possible.
Yeah, that's what I wanted.
Right. Also, I think playing the movie, like playing the movie out with them. So what do you think, what are some things that happen at prom, right? You know, what do you think, what kind of trouble can kids get into? So again, remember giving that background, the explanation, having them play the movie forward, and what other, difficulties they can get into.
Okay. Thank you so much.
So you mentioned talking to them about your life issues and events. What age would you say that's appropriate? Because I've also read that younger children need to have a sense of security. But also what age is appropriate?
Well, I honestly feel that if they bring it up, right? They're very young and they bring it up, then talk about it, right? In an appropriate way, where they can understand and speak their language, right? Adolescents, talk about it, for sure.
What if your child is in a very, sort of like the bubble, in a very protected environment where they haven't really heard about cultural spaces? For example, I homeschool my children, so they wouldn't be exposed to
So you know, notice how she said, if they ask you, right? So she's saying if they bring up the question, if they hear something and they say it, the younger kids, then it means it's on their mind. So you have to talk about it in whatever way that you know makes sense for your house, because everybody's situation is different, right? For teenagers, they're always, they're so interconnected. So it's kind of different, and you talk about it appropriately. But what she's, I think, really getting to is when they bring it to you, right? Don't shut them down. Yeah, so I'll give you an example. My 7-year-old, then he was 5 years old, right? Or he was about to be 6 when Trump was elected. They don't watch that kind of TV. So when I say TV, I'm also saying Netflix, right? I don't let them see the media because they're too young to understand, and they need that safe bubble for sure. Younger kids need that. But our next door neighbor, my son Shakir goes to a Muslim school, right? In Baltimore, we're local. So the next door neighbors put up a sign supporting Trump. And someone in school talked to him about Trump, right? I found out later, but someone talked about it. So he comes to me and he goes, oh mama, they put up a Trump sign. Are we gonna be in trouble, right? So I hadn't talked to him about this stuff, but it came up. And now if I shut it down, I don't get to the heart of what he's worried about, which is he gonna be okay? And younger kids need that safety and security. So he brought it up, we talked about it, but I talked about it, how much he needed to know. I didn't tell him the full truth about Trump the way that older kids might need to know, right? Right.
How old is your daughter? 8. So when my daughter was 8 years old, I used to take her to, relief events, ICNA relief or whatever to help the community service. So it really depends if you want her to, do it in a way that, oh, you know what, this country needs help because this is going on, and make it put a positive spin to it where, she's helping the world, right? Because remember, as Muslims, we're teaching them, as Muslim parents, we're teaching our kids to be proactive, right, leaders in the world, not followers. So we want to start young, inshallah, right? Appropriately, developmentally, slowly.
Can I just add one more disclaimer to that? Is it depends on the child's personality, right? Mm-hmm. And who they are. So my son is a very anxious child just by nature, right? He thinks about things a lot, right? Like I said, he's perceptive, he pays attention. So he's got so much going on in his head. So I know that if I tell certain things to him, he's just gonna think about it so much and worry about it. I'll get so many questions. I'm not worried about the questions, I'm worried about him worrying about it, right? So you have to think about your child too. You gotta do the balance of both.
And also one more thing, just like, when our parents get older, they lose their grandparents, certain things happen, accidents in families. This is where you need to talk to them about it. Because you want to make sure that, okay, we go to this janaza, and that's it, right? And you send them to school the next day, no one follows up. Or because for some reason we feel like children don't have feelings, they do. So you need to sit there and say, okay, honey, how are you feeling? I know, this huge thing happens. We lost, a family member or something. How do you feel about it? What do you want to, how can we process those emotions? Something like that, on their level.
Just so you guys know, in case you're trying to go to another session, it is 11:38. I mean, I'm fine with answering questions. Yes. I'm sure. Just so you guys are aware that if you wanted to go somewhere else.
Just give her 0.5 now.
You have the therapist perspective. The question was, how do you deal with kids who are very anxious and they do kind of ask question after question and they are very anxious and then they come back to it later, even after you've moved on? It's very tough. I know that sometimes you just kind of are like, okay, don't worry about it. It's gonna be okay, right? And you want to say that, but they're still dealing with it. So even if you say it's okay, don't worry about it, they're still worrying about it. So as a parent, that's kind of where your patience comes in, right? You have to, anytime that anxious child brings it up again, you gotta talk about it again. And you have to you reassure them that I'm always here to listen to you when you're worried, right? So that they do still come to you. And then part of it is developmental, right? They're just gonna get older and be able to better manage that. But then also talk to them about other strategies they can do. I think Sister Farjana mentioned it in her talk, right? Where she said, help them come up with what can you do when you're anxious, right? So like with my son, I'll tell him let's do something that distracts your mind. I was like, your mind is thinking about this a lot. Let's pick something to distract you. And so he'll go through his list of activities that he can do. and he'll go do that, right? So you can help them come up with strategies, like let's go for a run, depending on their age, right? Let's exercise. Whenever you're worried, try doing this. When you're worried, try doing this.
Yes.
I think the person in the back.
Yeah, I just want to add one thing to what you just said really quickly. Whatever emotion they're dealing with, right? Breathing exercises for anxiety, right? So again, labeling their feeling, validating it, right? Saying, oh, you're feeling anxiety right now, you're feeling anxious, nervous, and then teaching them those strategies. So breathing exercises, physical exercises, right? I feel anxiety right now because I have a test tomorrow and it's okay, I accept you. I feel anxiety right now because I have to go deal with these friends at school and it's okay, I accept you, right? So again, this is where they understand, they're watching their emotions, right? They're letting it pass through them, because the more you resist your emotions, your feelings, right? It stays there, right? So you want them to process it. Let them, like, they're like, it transcends through them, right? So teaching them various techniques. And again, if you go on my website or and my YouTube channel, inshallah, just type in Dr. Farjana, put YouTube and put Dr. Farjana with a J. I have all these techniques available. And our website, we have a lot of tips for parenting. And the sister here as well has a lot of stuff on her site. So inshallah.
So the explanations definitely have to be age appropriate, right? So like when you're talking to your teenager about why they should wear hijab, it's going to be very different than when you're talking to a 6 or 7 year old, right? And I would really suggest that a 6 and 7 year old, you're just suggesting, right? That I hope no one is forcing, right? Because that's not the proper message. Yeah, that we want to send about hijab. Yeah, exactly. So I mean, this isn't. I'm not a scholar, so I can't say anything about that part about it. I would just, when I'm talking to a 6 and 7 year old, like I would just talk to them about, you know, how do you feel when you wear a scarf? How beautiful does it make you feel? How close do you feel to Allah? Like I would talk about it more in those ways. Like, you know, it's showing so much more respect, right? And it's making you look so, like when we, an example someone gave me was really good, is when you go, you know, when someone dresses up to go to the king, to see a king, right? How do you go? Do you just go in whatever clothes? Right? No, you dress up nicely, right? So when you're with Allah, you want to dress nicely and look beautiful. And this is how Allah thinks is what beautiful looks like. Like, I would talk about it more that way, in those kinds of explanations. And if other parents have suggestions, that would be great to hear. Do you have another question, or do you have a suggestion? Okay, I think this person in the front just had their hand up.
Question.
Yeah, question. I was just saying she had her hand before. Yep, and then we'll get.
I thought another big problem is that children don't want to give the right to parents to choose their life partner, and we thought that it's our duty to give them guidance, but they don't want the guidance and they don't want to. So it's very difficult to guide them in this main issue of their life.
So this is where that cultural thing that Sister Farjana was talking about comes into play, right? Culturally, we think we have a right to decide who they will marry. Religiously, we don't, right? We can provide guidance. We can provide suggestions. We can help them find people, right? But we cannot force them to marry anybody that they don't want to marry, right? That's where the religion and cultural problem, we have to separate it. And that's why kids might be struggling with it, because they're like, well, this is what our religion says, but then this is what the cultural background of my parents say. So, and that's why they're struggling with that. You can provide guidance, but you can't force, right? You can't make decisions for them. Is it for your kids, is it realistic for them to wake up at 6 and do it, or is that another struggle?
It's realistic.
They can do that.
They can do that. They can do that. They do that when they have other
Things to do.
So you see them waking up at 5:30 and doing homework and setting up. So I'm thinking that's safer, you know.
The reason I'm saying it is because, you know, the struggle you're facing, it's not about the time. It's probably, and if your kids are here, I don't know. But yeah, it might be, so we can hear from them, but it might be more about the trust. Like, well, you should trust me after, right? That's probably more what they're fighting about, not 10 o'clock versus 10:30 versus 9:30, right? It's not the time. It's the underlying level of trust. So if you
do find them at times just entertaining, watching.
So my recommendation, and without knowing the full picture of like your family and what's going on, is if you feel like the underlying issue is more of trust, right? You have to find some way both of you guys can negotiate. Both of you have to meet halfway, right? So, you know, you're as the mom, you set a time, that's fine. But as, you know, and if you guys agree, let's say to extend it 30 minutes, then whatever you put down in those 30 minutes, the other side has to agree to meet that. Right? So if you say in those 30 minutes, it has to be work, it can't be entertainment. Then the other side, you guys need to be okay with that. Like the kids need to be okay, fine, we can do that, right? The other thing is you can also put a limit. You have to think about what is your time limit. Is it because you don't trust the media late at night? Is it because you don't trust what they're gonna do with the media late at night? Is it more because of the physical, like you want your kids to get enough sleep, right? Because if it's just that you don't trust the media, then what you could do is say, well, you can be up till, you know, we can extend it to 10:30 for the older kids, but you have to be in the living room. And it can't be entertainment. Do you know what I mean? So you can kind of negotiate in that way, depending on what the underlying issue is.
Because what my fear is, because they're really short, they do have extra students, so it's not really a robust homework, you know, from.
Right, it's on and off, and they're doing other things. Yeah.
You're not using your time wisely. So if you're not using your time wisely, then 10 o'clock is your maximum limit. If you really need time, then wake up at 6 and complete that.
Yeah. I mean, if it sounds like that's the issue, that it's just more time management, then it's not an issue of extending the time.
Right.
Then it's just time management. And then but you got to work with them on that, right? And help them learn how to manage that time better, right? And like I said, some people want their kids to sleep early, even teenagers. So that's different too. So you kind of have to now, you know, figure that all out with them together.
I just also want to add to that, if that's okay. Thank you, sister.
Assalamu alaikum. So, yeah, you have, honestly, what I would recommend is maybe having the rule of 10 o'clock, it's time's up. But sometimes, you know what, and you have to be honest, like, they have a big project that's due, right? And they're overwhelmed with all the classes that they have, right? So, and I understand it from both of your lives. You know, I have a 14-year-old as well. So this is where I let my child, you know, there's an underlying sense of trust, right? I have her phone password, I have her laptop password, and you know, once in a while, you have to monitor, just like you check your bills. You have to check everything in your house, right? You have to be an aware mother or parents, right? So father or mother. So it's building that underlying trust, but also understanding that sometimes they want to stay up. And like when I was in college, and I started my work later in the day, right? Not that we want to teach this to them, but sometimes you're a late learner. Like some people are early birds, some people they like to work at night when it's big projects, right? Study for their big exams, their finals. So this is where again that's okay for me. So again, as a parent, you have to make those decisions. Like, you know what, honey? Like, you know, if you need to work in the living room. If it's late, right? And ideally, I want us to shut down the internet by 10, right? But sometimes if you need to, it's okay. I understand. I love you. I'm your mom. I want the best for you. So you work in the living room, okay? So something like that. You know, this is again your own decision. That's what I would do. You know, my daughter, when she has late projects, she has, oh my goodness, tons of homework, and it's hard to manage. So, you know, yeah, you want to teach them time management, but you also want to teach them it's okay. I understand what you need as well.
I think you had a question. Oh, you didn't have a question? No, in the front. Oh, okay. Sorry, go ahead.
Thank you. I just wanted to ask you, we can, how do we talk to somewhat grown-up child who is in the college, especially boys, if they could get into marriage sooner rather than later?
How do you encourage them to think about marriage sooner than later?
Yeah.
I mean, all you can do is encourage them, right? Like, you can just keep talking to them, give them examples, point different people out. Like, you can do that kind of stuff, but you can't push that along.
Right. How do you bring the talking to them and give some tips?
How do you bring up talking to them?
Right.
Sure. Is your son done with college? In college. Okay, about to be done. Okay. So again, this is again, the building foundation, right, of your child as when they're younger to adolescent, and having those conversations, the theme of your household, right? Like I teach my daughter after college. Once you're done with college, you have your, you want to start, you can think about marriage. You know what I mean? But college needs to be done, whatever you want to decide as a parent. But taking them to maybe Islamic workshops, right? Where they talk about selecting the perfect, a good partner, right? What kind of Islamic etiquette do you want? So going to these lectures, they can relate to individuals, especially men, boys. They want to relate to other men who live that, who grew up here, right? Who grew up here, who understands them. They're also Muslim, but so they can relate. So finding people, role models for them, going to lectures, websites, the balance. Like I said, I'm not trying to promote this, but honestly, the Balanced Muslim, we have a whole survey on how to select the highest spouse. And we have a whole survey with your personality versus, so doing certain things like that. Having a loving conversation with your son. Like, oh, look, where you're about to, let's talk about this. Let's have that, it's some time for you to get married soon. So let's talk about what kind of woman you want, what kind of personality. So having open lines of communication, right?
And I just add to that, a big part of the marriage process is knowing yourself, right? Mm-hmm. And starting to think about yourself, starting to think about what you're looking for. So before you even talk about like other people or potential, girls to look at, none of that stuff. Just have those conversations about who you are, what are you looking for, what's important to you, things like that. Yeah, for yourself as a person.
Most of the time, the kids are already in the college, they are away from the parents, and then you lose the connection anyway. Then once they get the college, they go to a job or something, and they basically say, oh, we don't have money to carry on like a married life. So this goes on and on. I've seen people who are physicians and still like 40-year-old, they're still not married, like they want to have more money, more stability.
And that's where you talk about the values, because you talk about, well, what does it mean to be ready for marriage, right? Is it having that you have to have a house and you have to have, 100K income? What is it? Have those conversations to see where he's at, right? What is he thinking about what it means to him? And that's time for you to like guide him and say, well, you don't have to have a 100K salary to have a job. Let's break it down. Let's see how much does it take to support a wife. Mm-hmm. Let's look at it.
Yeah, why is marriage important, right? So understanding that that's half your deen, and again, it goes back to those values, right? Those values, teaching it to them throughout childhood all the way up onward. Not that you didn't, but again, emphasizing those again, right? And remember, you're the parent, so you have to be persistent, right? In a healthy way, right? Because you are the parent and you're still guiding them, right? That is our goal, right? For them to have a good family life, right? Good career, and be good Muslims.
There's a pre-marriage workshop that the FYI does as well, and a toolkit online. So you can also, like, sometimes it's just sharing resources. Like, send him this stuff and say, well, why don't you check this out? Why don't you look into this? That's the best that you can do. And stay in touch. Are you asking me personally or professionally? Because personally I would say no, they don't need to have everything. But for me personally, I mean, you can add and professionally, it's not about quantity, it's about quality. So you could have like 6 different apps, but if you're not actively involved in them, it doesn't matter, right? But if you've got like 2 apps and then you're like so immersed in it, that's way different. So for me, it's more about the quality of their involvement in those apps, whether they've got 1 versus 5. And nowadays, like social media, now everything is just so intertwined. So usually if you've got like, you know, Twitter and Facebook, they like intercommunicate anyway. So having 2, it's not like you're having that much more. It's just a different way, right? And for some youth, it's also a different way to just express themselves. So it's not just about like the number. It's more about the quality. What are your kids getting out of it? And then how do you kind of regulate that? And there's lots of information out there about like social media control and issues around social media and what can you do about it. And I would recommend looking into that stuff. Just because there's only so much that we can tell you about that. There's a digital media toolkit, also by the FY. Only saying it so that you have more, resources to go to. In there, it talks about like how much is too much. How do I talk about what are the different apps out there? How do I talk to my kids about it? Right? How do I stay connected to my kids about apps? Right? How do I handle social media in their lives?
I agree. You have to, my 14-year-old only has 1 social media app after just recently. Okay, and no Facebook, sorry, no this, no that. The only reason is if it's, again, quality. So she has an Instagram where she's promoting Islam, right, or positivity. So I'm like, don't put your pictures up or anything like that. And if you do, you can have a personal one. It's all girls that you know. I know all the girls on there, right? So again, how you monitor and the quality. So if it's about, you're forming leaders and they're promoting like, Islamic quotes and, great things. And again, you have their passwords, right? And you monitor it. And, there's no need for other things like just because the world says they need this, doesn't mean that they need that. Remember when we first started about the societal struggles, you have to protect them, right? And media is the biggest way they get to our kids. You're right, and influence our families.
I just very respectfully, I disagree a little bit in just that if social media is how friends connect, it's important for your kids to have that, right? But, of course, with the control, with the monitoring, with you constantly having conversations, passwords, all that stuff, right? Yeah. All of that for sure has to be there. I just don't want us to think that we have to run away so much from social media.
Definitely.
There's a way you can have social media, but then just put controls and a media contract in place, all of that, just to balance it and to protect them, because sometimes they don't realize what are the full, I'm not even talking about the really bad dangers. I'm talking about just how teens interact with each other nowadays, right? Nowadays, like, bullying each other is so much easier because it goes from school to home on your app, right? And I don't mean bullying just like, oh, go do this, right? That's so in your face. Subtle bullying is a big deal, and it happens so easily now with girls, jumping on each other, ganging up on each other in terms of just calling each other out. How many likes do you get? I did my talk on Friday for digital media, so it's, again, in the toolkit. I talked about what happens to your brain when you get likes on social media. They did a study about it. And the part of your brain that lights up when you are excited about something, like eating chocolate, was the same part that lit up when you got lots of likes. So they don't understand that these things matter. They affect your self-esteem. They affect how you interact with people, right? Yeah. So it's important for them to be part of that, but knowing these dangers and you monitoring as well. So what we have in the back is an example of workshops that we do, but if you sign up for the listserv, we'll send stuff out, but you also just go to our website, it's there. So the FYI.org has that toolkit on there. Yep.
Thank you, Assalamualaikum.
I also just want to say kudos to parents, because this session last time was like half as full. Wow. And this time, mashallah, it was very full. So I'm very proud of you guys that we're all finally talking about this. Do you have a card, sister?